Can one release trigger a news cycle on its own? Well, Kim Jennett says it can, and she's done it. Kim's Chief Marketing Officer at Rendezvous Robotics, and she's my guest on episode 129 of Tales from the Beat, where we look at news and PR from both sides of the scrimmage line. I'm Ed Garsten, and here's Kim. Hey, Kim, how are you?
Hi, it's great to be here. Thanks.
Thank you for coming on the podcast, and we're going to talk about this feat that you created, that you did. But first, let's talk a little bit about you and let folks know just about a little bit about your career and what you've been doing.
Yeah, I started my career. I was lucky enough to land myself out of college and right into the internet boom, 1994.
Uh-huh.
Saw it coming, 1995. I quit my job and went to my boyfriend's house, who his friend was an engineer. And I said, "We're about to create an agency."
Just like
And I
that,
said, "How much money you got on your credit card? How much
yeah.
money you got on your credit card? And how much
Yeah.
money you got on your credit card?" That boyfriend turned into my husband of almost 30 years now.
Okay.
And so I guess it all worked out.
It
But
all
for a
worked out well.
year,
It's always good to marry someone with a credit card.
yes. But for 8 years, we ran an agency that built startups and did brick and mortar websites from the times of Netscape 1.0
Wow.
and above. So I think that
Wow.
I got the bug for anything that has never been done before. I want to
Yeah.
be a part of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So
But
from there,
mhm.
yeah, no, space tech was something that I landed into, just recruited into from, it was random. I didn't understand what these little miniature rockets were going to be able to do, but
Yeah.
it was the small space race. And so small launchers, and I got recruited into a company that was founded by the first number one employee of SpaceX and somebody who had just sold his company to VMware. And the two of them together
Right.
created this company that was going to do smart satellites
Okay.
and launchers to take them there. So the small CubeSats and small sats that are just being taken up by SpaceX today and Rocket Lab and others over and over again. That's where I started my career in space tech.
That's awesome. And now you're at Rendezvous Robotics, and you told
Yes.
me earlier that you're fractional, and that's a term that, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, it was something I was coming out of ground transportation. Somehow I went from terrestrial to orbital to lunar and then
Yeah.
down to back down to terrestrial with ground transportation. I belong in orbit and around the moon, it turns
Okay.
out. But
Woo.
I was while I was making decisions on what I was going to do next, this
Yes.
company was introduced to me, and it so fractionally I am their CMO. They asked me to come on board,
Okay.
and whether or not that means someday when you're a small seed company,
Hmm.
uh, you don't need to spend a lot of money on marketing. I've learned that over the years, and
Okay.
my fractional allows me to take other projects if I want to, and
Oh,
also to give them the highest level of marketing, from the executive level to build out the team, to build out their storyline, and to really make sure that they are on the right track from day one.
it's very cool. I've known a lot of people now that have gone that route, and they're really enjoying life because, like you said, Kim, you've got the freedom to do what you want and pick and choose your projects, and I mean, that's nirvana of life. I mean, how often can you do that? So that's great. So, all right, we buried the lead. We talked about this feat that you pulled off. How did you turn a release into a news cycle?
It was a I don't it was not total luck and chance. However,
Hmm.
uh, there is a little bit of that always goes into this. You never really know what kind of legs that something will take. But
Right.
I saw something coming with some glimpses of people talking about data centers in space. Jeff Bezos said something at a conference, and then I told my company, this is going to be a thing. I see it happening. This is going to go viral. This is going to be a moment for us.
Hmm.
So the company that we were partnering with
Yeah.
called StarCloud. Give a shout
Okay.
out to Philip there.
Yeah.
He's pretty good at social media. I'm sure he'll be enjoying
Hmm.
this. But he and I went back and forth for just a couple of weeks on an MOU that we had already signed right before we went out of stealth. Rendezvous Robotics has only been out of stealth for 2.5 months now.
Oh, wow.
And so we aligned, stars aligned, and we put out a release that I thought would be great. But I chose a particular journalist, which I know you and I will talk about it a little bit too, is how do you manage and why do you choose certain journalists? And this is a
Yeah.
journalist I've been working with for years.
Yeah.
And although I hadn't given him anything yet on my company, I'd given it to other people, this
Hmm.
was the perfect one for him.
Okay.
And his name is Eric Berger. He wrote the book Lift Off and Lift Off 2.
Oh,
And
okay.
as soon as he put the article out, Elon Musk responded to it
Wow.
and said, I'm going to do, yes, this makes a lot of sense, validating all of our efforts that this is
Yeah.
a thing. And then
Wow.
said, and by the way, SpaceX will be doing this with Starlink.
Is
And
that
so it's a
right?
completely different play than what we're doing. So it's complementary. It's not
Yeah.
something that would be, in any kind of competition for us.
Right.
So we watched this go viral to then see that Google comes out and says, guess what? We're going to do data safe bases in space. And then you've got,
Oh, yeah.
Amazon coming out and you had this moment. Sam Altman comes on. We're going to, OpenAI is doing databases in
Wow.
space. This is still a news cycle that's going, and it's been three
Sure.
weeks now that we put out this release.
Is
It's gone mainstream media. This is no longer in space tech.
so do you attribute that to picking the right reporter and the right outlet for placing that release? A little bit of dumb luck, or a little bit of both, or just having to capture the right eyes of people that can make this happen? I mean, what forces sort of came together beside really just a good choice by you?
Yeah, well, I think that definitely Eric Berger being how he writes and what he cares about. I think that was the best the best reporter I could have asked for to do the exclusive with. This is
Hmm.
not big news. This is an MOU with a small company, just like we're
Yeah,
small.
sure.
But it turned out to be, worldwide. And Philip got invited to CNN and NBC News, and he's on things that he would have never, dreamed of before and
Hmm.
got his company a lot of play as well. But for Rendezvous, what allowed us is to open up the opportunity of thinking bigger. This is not just about databases of space. For us,
Hmm.
it's about infrastructure, and
Yeah.
it's the new frontier that is about to happen. We've got New Glenn that just came on. If you're a space nut, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Uh, and so now we have two U.S. rockets that are reusable.
Right.
Space access is not even, the story anymore. Anyone who's
Yeah.
writing about space access is behind the times. It's now about space infrastructure. What are we going to build when we get there? And I really felt like I just got some dumb luck
Yeah.
on some of this, but also it
Yeah.
was placement. It was really placement.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of that too has to do with your experience, and like you said, you have feeling, you have an intuition, you have relationship with reporters, and I can see so many PR people out there who have sent news releases out into the cosmos, and either they didn't even get a reply from a reporter, or they just went nowhere, and they're saying, well, I really hate her for doing that, because I'm jealous as hell. But what, just sort of on a bigger sense, what does it take from your standpoint and from your experience for that release to break through and get through the clutter? Because I mean, I'm just a semi-retired reporter. I don't get nearly the volume as a full-time reporter, but I still get billions of them, to cut through the clutter and get someone to notice and carry the story for you.
That's a really good. I'm glad you brought that up because I think one of the things that I do, and I've worked with a lot of PR firms too, and as you know, I think we talked about this. I'm my own PR firm and have done it both ways, and I've
Yeah.
actually been on the other side of things, agency wise. For me, one of the things that I think as PR people need to really pay attention to is putting the story together for the journalists because they're
Mhm.
reading so many. If you don't
Yes.
already have the story buttoned up for them and why it matters, why
Mhm.
now, and what you think that the play is going to be out there,
Yeah.
then a journalist is quite honestly going to swipe left on that.
Yeah.
It's just not. it's not interesting to them. So I do a lot of, I will tell you, I spend a lot of time
Yeah.
not doing pitches, but doing story development
Uh-huh.
and putting that into their laps. And I said, I
Yeah.
saw this. I think this
Mm-hmm.
is going to be interesting. I believe this is going to be a news cycle
Yes.
that, will come out of this. And I think you're the right one to write it.
That's brilliant that you said that because it's true. So many releases come across where there's no news in it.
Right.
Or if there is news, it's buried. And I always tell the story about this one guy. I won't say the company, but he send me releases all the time. They're 500 words, and you have to go 300 words into the release to see what little nugget of news there is. But yes, we're all storytellers on both sides, whether you're a PR person or reporter, we're all storytellers. And sometimes I like to equate that with people complaining that their cover letters for jobs are not getting through the algorithm because
Right.
they're not telling their own story in, in
Right.
in an effective way. So let's dig into that then a little bit more. When you're going through that storytelling process and you're thinking about how you're going to break through the clutter and get a reporter to open it and then hopefully follow through and write the story, uh, how are you formulating the story from your standpoint or the reporter's standpoint? Or I'm just curious as to how you build a story.
Well, you talk about strings on your podcast.
Mhm.
That was a term I hadn't heard before. I always called it thread,
Yeah.
I like threaded connected stories.
Okay.
And I've talked to when I build teams in marketing, and my biggest frustration for marketers or social media people that I hire is that it's not a connected story, but that's not a one and done. So
Hmm.
I'm always collecting. I'm a collector of stories, and when I can piece it all together into one that I think will resonate in a
Hmm.
bigger way,
Yeah.
that's the pitch that I put together. So I've seen this. All the granimals, if you're old enough to know what that means, all of them
Hmm.
come together.
Yes.
You've got all right. You have all
Yeah.
elephants.
I wouldn't
It's
know how
all
to get
good.
dressed in the morning without
That's
animals.
right.
So yeah. Okay.
I actually piece in here is a quote that I from that
Yeah.
article that I
Yeah.
think will, that you'd be interested in that connects it all together. But I
Hmm.
don't send them, a 20-page document. It's a very short bulleted point way of telling a story. But I do try to connect all the dots for them as to why I
Hmm.
think that this is important.
And it's very similar to the way a reporter gathers string and has all sorts of disparate elements and weaves it
Yes.
into a story. So see, we're really more alike than people think they are. So we've been talking, Kim, about reporters, and I know that in a previous conversation we talked about in this day and age of social media and the way people actually consume news, that you're looking also beyond your journalists, aka journalists in a traditional sense, but more of influencers and other outlets. So I wonder if you could talk about that. Is where else you're looking to place your news?
Yeah, I think influencers become very important. 2 points on that. One, I think us marketers and maybe not so much on the PR side, but I know that folks like me, if you've come from a certain age of this, you were
Hmm.
very quiet. You were always promoting others, and it wasn't about you. I think we've turned the corner on that, and I'm on your podcast. This is great. I
Yeah.
have been a quiet advocate for everyone I've worked for
Yeah.
many, many years, right?
Hmm.
So there's this new influencers coming up that they are selling what you want to be talking about, and
Yeah.
their audience is bigger than you. And so
Hmm.
then do you get those connections together, if it makes
Sure.
sense
Hmm.
for them to talk about what you're doing? I did this for while a lot of folks that were kind of older school mindset
Hmm.
when we were doing a launch for Firefly Aerospace, the company I worked for,
Yeah.
that I took to orbit. It was our second launch. It was very important to us. I will tell you that, and it's not, I think it's in the documentary that we
Hmm.
were on the cusp of not having any money. We needed
Yeah.
this rocket to make it.
Right.
And I chose to go with an influencer rather than
Hmm.
trying to do a broadcast for this that was much more polished and have, I mean, I gave a run a show that was I thought was interesting,
Yeah.
but more entertaining than it was
Hmm.
about Firefly, and I just sprinkled in some videos and different things that he could share that
Sure.
then would, of course, take it back to us. So that ended up having 1 million viewers, where
Mm.
there was no way that we were going to have that. Tim
Yeah.
Dodd, Everyday Astronaut, is an amazing human who
Hmm.
went not once, not twice, but to four, because we scrubbed the first 3 times to
Yeah.
do broadcast. And how do you make something interesting over and over and over again?
Yeah.
And he did that. And I think if you work with the right folks that have built their own audiences of interest and you
Hmm.
can align with them, why
Yeah.
not use
Yeah, it's amazing. I took an 11-year break from journalism and worked at the many versions of Chrysler for 11 years and created their digital communications. And what a cultural conflict
Yes,
there was to
yes.
get them off a picture and a news release and to do this and to go to influencers even in the early days. This was 2005, early days of social media, where I think they didn't even call it social media yet, and YouTube was still a year off.
Mhm.
But getting companies to understand that the traditional ways of doing that just are not effective anymore. People don't consume information in the way they did anymore. And I'm wondering if dealing with your clients, if you've ever had to, if that's still even so many years later, where this is everything, where you still have to convince them that, you don't need to get in the front page of the paper or on Channel 7 or whatever it is, to say that your news is out there.
Yeah, because building your own channel, I think, is really important. I still am a believer, and maybe that's my traditional way of being, is you have to have validation. That's that third party that must come in.
Yeah.
I truly believe that the art of journalism must stand tall,
Hmm. Hmm.
and having folks in. One of the things that I know that you and I also talked about briefly before the podcast
Yeah.
is founders and of these tech startups, um, being they need to be open to hearing a lot of points of views. Not all of them are going to be
Yes. Right.
perfect. They're not op-eds, they're not paid
Hmm.
media. This
Yeah.
is, and that still needs to, I think it's super important that that's still there. That said, if you want to do something that's more entertaining value, that actually, is more cinematic storytelling, there
Yeah.
is a way to use these other folks that can complement what you're doing out there for that third party validation. I mean, basically,
Yeah.
the way to make media is this is what I always believe in, especially for hard tech, future
Hmm.
tech type companies,
Yeah.
is you need to show, don't tell. So a lot of times I think that we do a little bit too much in my space
Hmm.
of over first of all, we over engineer it and with too much engineering talk. And I think that
Yeah.
influencers can help to break that down into much
Yes.
more bite-sized pieces. And then the other thing is they tend to be a little optimistic on timelines, which
Mm.
then leads to distrust.
Yes.
And so I think that there's a lot of things that if you tell the story along the way, I believe in this strongly, is everything that we do can become a story, but it may
Right.
not be news. You know,
Yeah.
milestones and follow people want to become fans of what you're doing. And if you
Right.
do it in the right way and be transparent and open and honest and say, we missed that timeline because we had these issues, I think that's it's a new approach
Sure.
that kind of has some traditional PR people a little bit nervous.
Yeah, it's really I mean, it's mind-boggling to me. I've been doing this for over 50 years that I've been in the media, where it used to be where editors would say, let's create a talk about story, right? The old water cooler story, the thing that people are going to
Yes.
talk about the next morning. But now it seems like it's complete opposite. You need to write about what people are already talking about.
Mhm.
And that's just throwing everything topsy-turvy, like going on to Google Trends and things and finding out what people are talking about in order to feed your story keywords and other SEO optimization sort of tools. So that brings me to really the sort of the last little part here, Kim, is what kind of tools are you using now to sort of create and place stories?
Yeah, so I don't have fancy tools like Muck Rack and other things. I
Yeah.
definitely am still I can be a little analog person, even though
Yeah.
it's digital.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
on what I'm doing, I do believe in creating really strong connections with journalists, and I'm pretty targeted in what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and have created my list along the way and add to that. So Muck Rack is not something that
Mhm.
I that I
Right.
don't send out a machine. I send
Yeah.
out targeted
Right.
media opportunities. But I do use AI a pro chat GPT,
Mm-hmm.
but only for to check my work.
Okay.
So one of the things that marketers can do, we have a POV, we have our value props, we have our
Right.
glossary of terms. All these things are not created by ChatGPT, they're created by us. If you
Right.
load what your information is into ChatGPT, it can say, but you normally say it this way. Would you like
Yeah.
to, you know, offer a different suggestion there?
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's how I use chat. And I know a lot of people want to talk about how are we using chat. I don't believe that chat is the best writer. I
Thank
believe
you.
you're a good editor
Yes.
of your own work. So if you can, I put some of my favorite writing pieces in there of my voice. Please tell
Mm-hmm.
me about my voice, make sure that it's correct. And I say, okay,
Yes.
so now when I'm writing something, if I want me to just get something out fast, like a social media post, make sure
Yeah.
you're using this voice. Tell me how, it's doing. And I think that chat's been really good to me on that. But I have a mean chat that's Gemini. And
Okay.
Gemini checks my nice chat because
Okay.
because ChatGPT can be a little
Me
too
too.
nice.
They're too nice. Yeah. Right.
It's too agreeable.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
have
I
a
noticed
mean
that too. Yeah. It's funny
Gemini
you
that
mentioned
I've
that. Yeah.
created. Yes. So my
And
mean
I.
Gemini goes in and argues the
Yeah.
points with my. So sometimes I do kind of like just sometimes it's
Yeah.
just fun to do that. But that's how I'm using chat is
That's
in a way
funny.
to help me to just make sure that everything
Yeah.
is has a voice that's consistent.
I'm
Um,
really glad you said that because um, people are leaning on, as we know, people are using it as a shortcut, as a substitute for doing actual intelligence, that
right.
the different AI. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's a great tool if used correctly, but too many people are using it as a hammer to screw in something.
Yes.
And it just doesn't work. I always ask before we I let you go. I always ask old PR folks at the end when you're dealing with reporters, what do we reporters do that really ticks you off, and what do you do about it?
There's only one thing that I'll say because I've had really good luck with a lot of reporters. There's
Yeah.
only one thing. Um, when I give you something and you agree,
Yeah.
don't ghost me afterwards. Give me some feedback on, it
Mm,
didn't fit what I needed right now. Sorry about that. I have one reporter, and I'm not going to name names, but
yes.
I tell you every time, like I feel like Lucy in the football with this guy,
Uh,
and I keep thinking maybe one day. I'm now I think it's a quest to get him to actually not just say, "Yeah, I like
okay.
this," but actually then
Mhm.
write it.
Uh,
So that to me is the biggest thing. If I am taking the time to curate,
mhm.
which I think that's why I have a lot of luck. I have had feedback from my startups that they are very surprised at how much media play I can get and so early. But I do
Awesome.
think that
Yeah.
if journalists can please just be honest with us, I would really
Okay.
appreciate
Okay. We promise. I promise.
that.
I try to be, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm at the stage of life where, it's no sweat. It's just fun
Yeah,
for me. It's always fun for me. It's never work, but it's been great. Now, you're in Huntington Beach, right?
I am.
So I have a very, very important question to ask you.
Oh
Is
gosh.
is I've been there many times. Is Beach
Okay.
Burgers still in business?
TK Burgers. Is that who you mean?
No, there used to be a
On
place called Beach Burger on, was it Beach Boulevard?
well, I live by the water.
Okay.
So TK Burgers on PCH is
Oh,
since 1947, I believe, is still here. Still one of the
okay.
best burgers in all of Huntington Beach.
All right. Well, this one was not, it wasn't on that. It's on the road that goes
On the
up
other
to
side. Yeah.
405.
I don't know
But
about that. Yeah,
But
I don't, when you live down by like
yeah,
where my husband and I built this, our dream house down here, and I'll,
yeah,
I'll tell you that we've been here 5, 6 years now. I
okay.
lived in the Bay Area for 28 years.
Mm,
Uh, and so now we're back to Southern California, and you don't get in your car when you live 2 blocks this way to the water and two
right.
blocks this way to Main Street. So I don't make it to Beach Boulevard often.
Okay. All right. I just had to ask because we used to, Chrysler, we had this event every year called the LX Festival that honored the
Ah,
specific platform of the cars, the Challenger, the Charger, and stuff like that. And we'd have a little rally at Beach Burger at night, and the
oh,
cars would
that's
be there.
fun.
And it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Well, Kim, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. Great information, great perspective.
Thank
Love
you.
hearing about how you made the news release go crazy and get your own cycle. So thanks a lot for being with us. Uh, Kim Jennett, she's a PR veteran. She's a mastermind. She's made the news release go everywhere. So thank you so much. And everyone, that's this episode of Tales from the Beat. I hope you'll share, comment, subscribe. I'm Ed Garsten, and I'll be back soon with more tales. Take care.